Hey guys, this is Brian, aka One Page at a Time. I used to saying Texas Treasures, and I got my camera up a little bit higher, so it's kind of weird me looking up. And this is going to be the first edition of the online book club. I have the link to join. Val, Nikki, if you're out there, I don't have Nikki on Facebook, so I didn't have a way to send her. Send her a link. Yeah, I'm up next to the router. This is my son Justin's room, and he has the router up here. So I figured as much internet problems as I have when I broadcast from the garage, it would be better to broadcast up in here. Our office downstairs doesn't have doors, and my daughter has her friends over. Her birthday is tomorrow. And so she has her friend over, and being teenage girls, they're kind of loud. So I wanted to be a little bit secluded with a better position for broadcasting. So that's where I'm at. Today we will be discussing Napoleon Hill's Law of Success, Volume 1, Lesson 1, which is the Mastermind. So, Val, there's the link. Nikki, if you're out there, Nikki said she was going to join us too. The link is in the chat. Anyone else that wants to jump in to discuss it, feel free to. I'll give you guys just a couple minutes and go ahead and get into it. The plan for this is to have an ongoing online book club where we read different books and discuss it. My channel was previously all about reselling. I still resell, so I'll probably use a lot of those examples, but the books we choose don't have to just be reselling. You know, I plan on doing self-help, self-development. We could do some fiction, just whatever. We can, as more people join, we can get feedback, and I'd like to do it Thursdays around this time. A little background information about Napoleon Hill. This book was written in 1928. And it's really weird. I keep having to look up versus. Actually, I'm gonna move my camera. I'm sorry. It's driving me crazy. All right. Oops. Put my big head in the picture. All right. It was written in 1928 by Napoleon Hill, and a lot of, I would say all of the modern self-help books, business books, success books. Once you read Napoleon Hill, you'll see where they came from. They all originated right here. And what happened is Andrew Carnegie, the very successful American businessman, early 20th century, challenged Napoleon Hill to study the most successful businessmen, most successful men. Well, I guess you could say women. Well, it was more, we would consider it a sexist time. Men were the dominant, business people at the time. Anyway, to study those successful men, to find out what attributes that they have or what were the keys to their success, and to share that information with everyone. And that's what he's done. The other book I've read is Think and Grow Rich, which is a mindset book, also by this author. And this one, this edition, was originally, it came out as a lecture where he would go around the country and give them these, almost like a course, like a lecture. And then later people would come to the school. A lot of salespeople, a lot of businessmen would come to learn these 15 laws of success and to implement them. And he studied very successful people like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Wrigley, a lot of the big successful people early on. Waiting on Val and Nikki, if you're out there, come on. It'd be a lot easier to do this with some people to bounce these questions and thoughts off of, versus just doing it by myself. Because the plan is to have, ultimately, got my water, drinking my water, the Dickie's barbecue. We're here in Texas, and barbecue is king. I love my barbecue. The plan is to have a group of, anywhere from a couple to however big. We can do 10 people here. I'm using StreamYard. StreamYard has upped the number of people that can be on to 10. If we grow beyond 10, then I can do this on Zoom, and we can have even larger book groups. So that's kind of the big picture. And I'm waiting. You joining, Val? Waiting for Val to join. Nikki, if you're out there, waiting for you to join. If not, I guess I'll just go ahead and get into it. I know Clay from channel Clay's Can said he would like to join in the future, but he's not ready right now. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it because I don't know if anyone's joining. So this book is broken into four big lessons in volume 1, and the first lesson is called the Mastermind, and it's basically the first 92 pages. And like what my plan was this was going to be the first question to ask, the people that had read it, like, what is a mastermind, or what does Napoleon Hill consider? No, I need someone in here, Nick. Val, and track down Nikki. Yes, it would be great if I had both y'all in here versus just myself. A little awkward doing this by myself. It's more of a lecture versus a book club. And I really want to hear what you two ladies thought about it. So here's the first question: What is a mastermind? And I want to do this in person, at least on screen. I don't want to do a lot of typing in the chat. Hey, what's up, Harry? Thanks for dropping by. Val's trying to hunt down Nikki. So there's the first question. What is a mastermind? Hopefully Val will join here to tell me her thoughts on this. I've got several questions, so I can shoot out some questions. Any questions you have, Val, or anyone else that's read it, and then we can just kind of talk about the different pieces in the first lesson. All right, so a mastermind is, according to Napoleon Hill, it's when you get a group of anywhere from 2 people up, and ideally he says it should 6 or 7 is kind of the sweet spot. And those people that he says their minds are in harmony, but it's basically people who are like-minded, is my interpretation. People that are like-minded come together for a common goal. And what happens, and we'll have to get into this, there's a lot of stuff that he talks about, but what happens is when those people come together, it's like the power of their minds kind of connect. And he says a mastermind is formed. It's almost like if you take 3 people and say A plus B plus C should equal D, but there's like an exponential growth of those 3 minds coming together synergistically or like in harmony, and you create a force or a mind that's even greater than the sum of its parts. I would use the example of, like, I've been in Chris, aka Daily Refinement's Patreon group. I haven't been in it about a month, but I spent about a month in there, and that's definitely a mastermind. And he touts this book as well, and everyone in there is trying to become better resellers. So, like, when I was in that group, when I was active in that group, it's like you get ideas from each other, and that helps you. But it's more than that. It's like it almost charges you up. And like Clay was laughing, like when I was in that, like I was like a monster. Like I was, working in the garage on my reselling from like 6 a.m. till 6, 7, sometimes 8 p.m. And that mastermind group, was really powering me. And he uses an example of batteries, right? Like you put a series of batteries on a single line and they create a stronger charge. And that's what happens. And it really, even this book club, if you think about it's a mastermind. It's a group of people coming together to talk about, to learn about, to share thoughts um, on a topic. And if you think about it, even even YouTube channels, in a way, that's kind of what they are. Now, when you have more people interacting versus just one person speaking, it becomes that mastermind. Uh, Val says, interesting concept when you're extremely introverted, even when you have a common factor. Yeah, like I'm an introvert. I definitely consider myself an introvert. And even doing this book club uh, puts a little stress on me. Um, but I decided I'm going to work through it. So yeah, even introverts, you can get a bunch of introverts coming together with that common factor, and there's like a synergistic effect, and everyone kind of blossoms in a way. All right, well, let me go ahead and get into it then. Got all my annotations and my highlighting. And I will say this, like when you read this book, and there's when you read this book, like some of his thoughts seem a little out there, but you have to approach it with an open mind. All right, let me see. And he states that at the beginning, right? Like on page 16, he says, this course has been created for the serious-minded person who devotes at least a portion of his or her time to the business of succeeding in life. So that's who this is meant for, right? And then he goes into the history of how it was first taught as a lecture. And these mastermind groups are their leaders. That's a good question. He doesn't specifically say that, but I think you could infer that there's probably kind of one person kind of leading it. And when you think about these mastermind groups, like this was in 1928, and they're all around us right now. Like in education, we do Socratic seminars, which are like book clubs. We do small groups. And we'll talk about more examples later, but you'll see this a lot in businesses, these mastermind groups kind of pushing, encouraging each other. And I think there usually is one person kind of spearing it, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Like in Chris's Patreon group, it's a mastermind is what it's created, and he leads or he guides it. And I wouldn't say necessarily leading; I would say more facilitating. Like as a teacher and educator, the goal is not to lecture, but to facilitate. That you facilitate the learning of different individuals, different groups. That you're there as the expert and to help, but not necessarily just in the old traditional sense of leader. So, all right, here's a question. What do y'all think? What are some examples? Here, I'll top this out. Since it's just me, what are some examples of mastermind groups that you have seen? Have you seen examples of groups of several people or more coming together with a specific goal? He keeps focusing on this idea of harmony, where their minds are in harmony to grow. Can you think of any examples that you've seen? And in the book, he gives many examples. Like this was a really interesting one. Let me look at my notes because I wrote the page number on this. Where is it? Examples. Here, let me find it. Yeah, I think on. Let me find it. Dang it. Examples. Page 46. All right. I said put page 46. All right. So on page 46, he gives some examples of back in the day masterminds. And you had this mastermind between Henry Ford, obviously, he created the Model T in 1908, I believe. The first mass-produced vehicle, and that changed American society, right? Before that, at that point, people could afford, the average person could afford to purchase a vehicle, and that changed society, how people traveled, how they could relocate, geographically move across the country. Um, Obviously, the Ford empire grew very large. We have the interchangeable parts, we have the assembly line of producing these vehicles very efficiently. And Henry Ford was the one behind all that. And he was part of a very powerful, very selective, hold on a second, mastermind group. And when you think about it, it's pretty amazing. It was Henry Ford, you have Thomas Edison, you know, the light bulb dude, and Tesla, by the way. Tesla was attached to Thomas Edison. And then you have Harvey Firestone, Firestone tires. It makes sense. And so these three guys met regularly. And even though there is some overlap between their businesses, they're not all exactly the same either. But these three geniuses met regularly as a mastermind, and I would love to have sat in on some of these meetings. And I'm sure they were talking about ideas that they had, problems they had, and just between those three geniuses, working together and becoming more effective. Um, and just for me, like joining, I keep going back to Daily Refinement, Chris's Patreon group. Like I was supercharged. Matter of fact, it was causing problems because I was so focused on reselling that my relationships, my relationship with my wife, my family was suffering because I was so turbocharged. So I've kind of pulled out of that temporarily and structured my reselling life to be more realistic. Like I'm doing 9 to 3, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, sometimes a little bit on Saturday. But when you get in a good mastermind group where everyone's on the same page, get it one page at a time, at the same page, working towards a goal, man, the results can be amazing. And I've always tried to take those elements and echo that in my channel. But anyway, so those guys, take my toddlers outside. She's crazy. Those guys came together and formed a very powerful mastermind. So, can y'all give some other examples maybe you've seen of mastermind groups in effect? And then he's talking about, I guess I'll just go through this chapter because this asking questions isn't very effective if you don't have other people online. In his group, like there's 100 people. Like I'm still in it. There are over 100 people that have joined. I think he charges it's around $100 for a year, and that gives you access to his morning calls. Central Time, it's 8 a.m. 8 a.m. here. I think it's 6 Pacific Time. But normally the amount of people who actually are active on the call each day kind of varies between 15 to 25. 20 is probably the average number. And he will bring a prompt, and everybody will kind of share and discuss through that prompt. And we help each other. We all, like sometimes I'll chime in with some information to help someone else out, or I might have a question or a problem someone else can help me with, and we just kind of work through that. All right, so at the beginning, he talks about the 15 laws of success on page 20 through 23. He gives them. I'll just kind of go over these with you real quick. And I'm sure he'll get into this more in the book. Number 1 is to have a definite chief aim, which that's a very specific goal that you should set with, and we'll go into it when we hit it in the book, but it's a very specific goal. And that definite chief aim, you're supposed to write it down on a sheet of paper, for example, would be something very specific, like like if you started this on January 1st, it'd be by the end of 2020, I want to have made $100,000 in gross sales. And then you got to state like what you're willing to give up for that. In order to do that, I will work 8 hours a day at reselling. Um, and so that's your definite chief aim. And because the mind is so powerful, you're supposed to write that on a piece of paper and you're supposed to read whatever that definite aim goal is first thing in the morning and then right before you go to bed. And so that repetition inside of your mind will begin to take place, and it will be like what's running in the background, fueling you throughout the year as you try to achieve that goal. So that's number one, is a definite chief aim. Here, I'll just read his words. He says, this will teach you how to save the wasted effort which the majority of people expend in trying to find their life work. This lesson will show you how to do away forever with aimlessness and fix your heart and hands upon some definite, well-conceived purpose as a life work, right? So to me, it's like that main goal you're shooting for, because if you think of the metaphor of a plane taking off, if it doesn't have a destination, it's going to be lost, right? And so this whole idea of trying to be successful without a very clear goal, it doesn't work, because you're going to then work based on how you feel, your emotions. If one day you feel good, maybe you crank out a good day's work, but on those days you're not feeling good about it, you're not going to. And if you have a very specific goal, like if say it's $100,000 in sales, well, now once you know that, you can backwards plan. Well, what does that need to look like? What am I going to sell? How am I going to source it? How many listings a week do I need to get put up? What's my average sell price going to be on each item? And then as you're working towards that goal, you can adjust what you're doing to make that happen. So that's number one. Number two is self-confidence. Here, I'll just read the 15. I won't go into it because he'll hit these later. Number two, 15 laws of success, is self-confidence. Number three is the habit of saving. That makes me think of Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University. Number four is initiative and leadership. Number five is imagination, because you do have to have imagination, right, to be able to imagination is so important. Hey, Nikki, I have the link in the chat. I would love if you and here, I'll put it on here again. If you and Val will pop on to help me out. There's the link. Val says, I'm not good at goal writing. I'm not specific, probably because I like to give myself an easy out. I like that introspection, like you thought about the reason why. And that's probably true. Like I think most people that don't set these definite chief aims or these goals, that you're scared of failure, and so you're looking for that easy out. So but I like that you've thought about this. I also write my goals on a dry erase board so they can be easily changed. Yeah, I think you should have like one big one, like maybe for a year, and then it should be able like to be adjusted how you're going to achieve that. All right, so Nikki's here, Val's hanging out in the chat. No, that's fine, Nikki. And I need to get your probably Facebook information. I know I got you on Instagram. It would be easiest maybe through Facebook, so I can send you those notifications quicker. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead and get ready. And I think Val's going to pop on when you pop on. I think she was waiting for you, which is fine. So number five was imagination. This will stimulate your mind so that you will conceive new ideas and develop new plans, which will help you in attaining the object of your definite chief aim. That lesson will teach you how to build new houses out of old stones, so to speak. It will show you how to create new ideas out of old, well-known concepts and how to put old ideas to new uses. This one lesson alone is the equivalent of a very practical course in salesmanship and is sure to prove a veritable gold mine of knowledge to the person who is the earner. Number six is enthusiasm. This will enable you to saturate all with whom you come in contact and interest you in your ideas. So if you think about that, that kind of goes the enthusiasm, the leadership, the goal. Like you need all of those kind of working together. And I think the mastermind, when you put a group of people that are enthusiastic and with similar goals, then their imaginations all kind of work together, and that's what facilitates the growth, I believe. Number 7 is self-control. Number 8, the habit of doing more than you're paid to do. Number 9 is a pleasing personality. I mean, basically don't be a jerk, right? Honey, as went to our therapist today, like we go weekly, trying to work on being a better human being. And the old proverb, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, is true, right? That's the pleasing personality. Number 10 is accurate thinking, dealing with facts and important facts. Number 11 is concentration. 12 is cooperation, working together with people. 13 is profiting by failure. And I think that's a big one because we all make mistakes. I mean, like Thomas Edison, we were talking about his famous quote. I didn't. What is that quote? Something about 10,000 failures. What is it? I didn't fail 10,000 times. I can't even think of the quote off the top of my head, but basically it took 10,000 failures, but he kept learning and never gave up the persistence and profiting by those failures, learning from those mistakes, and eventually sticking with it, being persistent, and you will succeed. Number 14 is tolerance, right? Being tolerant. And 15 is practicing the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you. So those are his 15 laws of a success. There's an overview around page 21 to 24. There's Nikki. Hey, Nikki, how's it going?
Sorry, Brian. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Well, you're outside?
Yeah.
That's nice. Let me see. You're up in Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's the weather up there?
It's only in the 70s, but it's really pretty. I mean, it's only been in the 70s. Like I have to wear a jacket at night.
Man, I'm so jealous. It's like over 100 here in Texas now. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Brian, I've totally dropped the ball on this. I ain't even going to try to lie about it. I've never ordered off of Amazon ever. Now, if you could walk me through the process, I'll be more than happy to get that book, but I've been entirely way too busy to take a time to actually ask you. But I've never ordered anything off Amazon. Like I don't even know how to go about doing it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I can help you with that, and that's fine. Even if you haven't read the book, I mean, we still bounce some ideas off.
Oh yeah, I got a notebook right here to write some down.
Nice. Val, are you coming on? Val was saying she's waiting for you. But
Come on, Val.
Come on, Val. We're waiting. And so Val made an interesting comment. She said she realizes she's only, what she said, she's only met one of those 15 laws of success. And I think that's okay. Like the whole purpose is to grow. It's not like no one's going to be an expert and meet all these laws of success. She says, I go outside, I go above and beyond, but working for myself, I know that I don't put in 100%. I work better when other people are counting. Well, we're counting on you right now to come on, so get on.
But I'm the same way like Val is. Like whenever I go above and beyond at a job where people are counting on me, like because I just like to excel in everything. So I definitely understand what Valerie is saying on that. It's a lot harder working for yourself. Like if I was my employee, I would have already fired me a couple times, you know?
That's funny. Yeah, I think that is kind of natural, right? Like when you're working for yourself, the tendency is just work when you feel like it. But if you I think that's where all these laws come in. Like you got, like for me, like having a big goal, like eventually I want to be able to do this full time and not teach. And I know to do that, I have to make X amount of money to cover that. And so that kind of drives me. And I think having that burning goal that you have can kind of guide you, I think.
There we go.
All right. All right, let's see what else. All right, and around page 28, he goes over this And at first, like, to be honest, I was reading it. He was talking about the organization, like as a feature in the organization of matter, and he was talking about atoms and protons and matter, and he was like comparing like H2O, two atoms of hydrogen, one of oxygen. But if you take one of those out, then you don't have water. And so how
Mm-hmm.
nature, all the way from the smallest little electron up to the most giant star in the galaxy, but they're all comprised of these little blocks and they're organized. And he spends a lot of time talking about this. And when I read it, I was like, what's he getting at? But I think he's talking about the importance of organization. And like he uses the example of Henry Ford. Like Henry Ford didn't know everything, but he surrounded himself with a mastermind of people that were good in different areas, and he organized those people in a way um, to reach the end results. And when you think about it, even from reselling, like Chris on Daily Refinement, he talks about this a lot. One person can only do so much, and you need to get to the point where you're kind of maxed out. But if you want to take it to a higher level, then you have to get some outside help. You're going to need a lister
Mm-hmm.
or a BA or something, and organizing those people to free up um,
See,
to
that's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm getting so overwhelmed. Now I have, a VA to share my closet and stuff, but oh, I better not turn that way. But I'm starting to get to the point where I need somebody to help me. Like, I need to take the pictures, and I need actual like a VA from like maybe Uptown or something to actually list my things. And I was going to ask, has anybody ever used List Perfectly? Do they actually list your items for you?
so all right, well, List Perfectly will cross list for you.
Mm-hmm.
What you might want to look into is Cellhound.
Okay.
Cellhound, you take the pictures, it's an app, and it guides you through. Basically, you take the pictures, you write a description, you send it to them. It only takes about a minute or two for each item. They then do the research. They write a really good, it's supposed to be a really good title, a really good description. They research the pricing on comps, and they send
Uh-huh.
it back to you with a suggested listing price based on solds with a title and description. And then all you got to do is approve it, or you can edit it if you want. I was using it
Oh,
for a
okay.
while. If you're doing clothing, it will really allow you to list a lot more. I mean, I think, I don't know, it's somewhere, I haven't used it in a while, somewhere around $2 per listing.
That's not bad.
It's not bad, and it lets you get more listings up more quickly.
I'm telling you, Brian, I have about 500 to 600 pieces, textiles and hard goods, that because I've gotten so many good deals within the last week. Like, I'm all the way up to my ceiling in inventory right now, and I don't know what to do. And some of it's like really good stuff. Like, I've been finding really good dolls that I've been paying a quarter for, 50 cents for, 10 cents for, and I've been like listing them for $150.
Wow.
Yes, I mean, I found three within the last 3 days.
That's amazing. What I would say
Crazy.
is like that, the sorting, and I've been in Chris's. I already know how you go through. That's the sorting. Like you've got all this inventory, so it needs to be sorted. Like maybe
Right.
not all the dolls together. One day you're gonna work on dolls. One day you're gonna work on tops or shoes on another day. But it sounds like if you're able to find all that really good inventory, then like you maybe start off with Cellhound because that'll allow you to get more listings up, and maybe
Okay.
eventually you need a lister. But I will say it is hard to get a real life lister that you can count on. Like I've gone through three. Like my son's helped it. He's really good when he works, but he
Well,
doesn't.
he's family too. It's really hard to work with family because they don't take it as serious because you are family. They're allowed to mess up. That's why I try to steer away from that area. It's just I don't think it's healthy because they don't work as hard. Just like I wouldn't work as hard for my mom.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a
You
good
know.
point. And I know Chris has said like, he's put out ads and, you know, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or wherever, and something like, hey, you want to make $100 on a Saturday, and you actually bring somebody. Of course, you'd have to like screen them out. Maybe you meet with them for tea or coffee or lunch or something, and then you actually bring them for a trial run to show them how to do it and to see if they're going to do it and try to judge if that's a good fit or not.
See, where I'd do it out of my house, like out of both my spare bedrooms, I just don't think I would want somebody here. And I want somebody somewhere where I can leave. I don't have to be over top of them. So I'm thinking about even a storage unit. Like I'm thinking about it. Maybe just using a storage unit as my inventory / shipping place. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what Chris does. He has a storage unit and he
Yeah,
lists
I watch
it.
Chris. He's like methodical. He's like really, really analytical. He's just very detailed. I think a lot of him. Like I've been watching him since I started.
Yeah, he's really good. So yeah, I think you can definitely do it out of a storage unit. You just have to make sure that the unit allows people to work there. Just ask those questions before you rent it.
I'm just so scared I'll get in over my head and my I'm so scared I'm just going to get in over my head and I'm not going to make what I need to make.
Yeah, maybe Cellhound is the next step then. See
Yeah,
how that goes.
that's the next one, I think.
It'll allow you to pump out more listings, and then if that grows and you're really rocking and rolling, and then like what he's done is he's had people use Cellhound as listers, so they're really, he's using it, someone else is using it, and then they're really cranking out these listings.
So this book I'm sure is going to help me with my business too. I mean, I'm sure, because it is that what this book is about, is just becoming, entrepreneurship and stuff, or I mean, because I've never actually heard of it, but I'm interested in it.
Yeah, it is. It's a little dated because we're written in 1928, but a lot of the modern business books, self-help books, improvement books, they've basically taken these ideas and they put a modern twist on it. But yeah, it definitely will. It's geared towards making you successful. And like the first lesson is the mastermind. It's coming together with a group of people, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Well, Valerie needs to get on.
I know. What are you doing?
And I'm not reading the comments. I'm not ignoring anybody. I'm just not reading the comments because I'm on my phone.
Valerie, get on here, please. Please.
I like Valerie. I've watched her since, I started watching her during October. And the only reason I remember is because it was Vlogmas, or it was October, whatever that one is. October, where they vlog every day. But Vlogtober, that's it.
Yeah.
So I've been watching her since Vlogtober, and she's so funny. She's just really, she's a really sweet individual.
Yeah, her channel's great. She's really funny. I know, like, she's nervous, and she's talking about.
You should watch her gingerbread live. Her first live was this gingerbread. She was making a gingerbread man, and it was so freaking hilarious. You're gonna have to watch that. When you want a good laugh, watch that.
All right, let me write that down. I don't have my donut box, but let me gingerbread live.
Yeah, it was back in December.
Right. Yeah, I'll check that out. Val, get on here, please. And Val asked, where do you find your mastermind? So where do we see examples of groups of people coming together for a common goal, working together collectively? Mm-hmm. I mean, Patreon groups are definitely one of them.
What are Patreon groups?
So like creators, and you'll find some YouTube creators, they'll have a Patreon page, and it gives you exclusive content, like Chris does his YouTube channel, for example. But when you're in his Patreon group, you're able to participate in his live daily calls.
Okay.
And then there's other information that's shared only on there. So, and in exchange, people donate to the creators. Basically, is say, hey, I appreciate you. I find this information very valuable and helpful. There she is. And if you think about it, like $100 to be able to talk to Chris every day.
Hi.
Hi, Valerie.
Hiding behind her black screen.
She does that, but that's okay. At least she's talking.
She is.
I'm eating my pizza. Nobody needs to see this.
You lucky thing.
That's what I had. I had a non-pizza. I made a non-pizza, or you use naan bread and the marinara sauce. I had some feta, some sun-dried tomatoes. And that's what I had for dinner too. What kind of pizza are you eating?
Pizza Hut stuffed crust, extra sauce, pepperoni, and sausage.
All right.
The extra sauce sounds good.
Like the extra cheese.
Well, I don't like sausage, so.
Yeah. What do you think, Val? So your question, where do you find masterminds? So one example I was talking about is like a Patreon group. Have you seen other examples of mastermind groups?
Well, for me, it's just my small chat groups.
Mm.
And I've been through a few of them, but I struggle to find the right chat group.
Yep.
Not saying the one I'm in now isn't the right one.
I'm, Valerie, I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on that. That's why I jump around through a lot of them. But the ones that I do find that I really like Brian, anytime that I get a notification for you, I watch you. But I'm like that with other ones too. Like Valerie is another one. Like I'll stop what I'm doing to watch Valerie. There's about a handful of you guys I will now, but that's about it. Some of the information is very misleading and not correct.
I think a lot of reseller or content it's clickbait. It's like they're selling out just because they're monetized, and it's sensationalist versus just really trying to help someone. So I kind of agree with that. But I think YouTube is an example of a mastermind group, right? Like whatever your
I
channel,
agree.
that you're able to interact in the comment section, or you can bring different people on. So yeah, that's good. I think YouTube is also a mastermind group. Clay says
I
running.
think any really platform that you're on is a mastermind group. If everybody on, I feel like a mastermind group is like with everybody in the same mindset to make something happen. You know what I'm saying? I feel like any kind of platform could be a mastermind.
No, that's really good. Think about all the Facebook reseller groups. Now I think you can get into too many, and maybe you just got to find a couple, because it can kind of like I'm in so many, and I'm starting to turn off notifications for most of them because. But Facebook is an example of a mastermind community, and all of these social media in general. But it all goes back to Napoleon Hill. Like his ideas, really, you can trace a lot of the things we're doing all the way back to him. Clay said running groups is an example because all the people in the group with so many years of experience, most folks wouldn't ever have a clue about what to do or to improve. That's a good one, Clay. Yeah, a running group is a mastermind where you can benefit from that. Hiking groups, hiking clubs, a book club is a mastermind. So yeah, those are good.
I think one of my problems with finding groups is, so your group, everyone has about the same end goal in mind, but when there's people with different levels, I think I get really intimidated by the more advanced people in the group, instead of like I want to learn from them, obviously, but I get really intimidated by them.
Agree.
And like I was watching a little bit of Emily Conway.
I love her.
Yeah, she's good. Like she was talking about that, how like you look up to certain YouTube creators, reselling creators. Like if they have a high sub count, like, oh, it's almost intimidating. But it doesn't mean that they're always right just because they have a high sub count. And that's what I love about Chris's Patreon group. Like there's people on Amazon doing like 10 million plus a year on his group. There are people just starting selling video games. There's people in between. But I think the key, and this comes back to the book. I'll bring it back to the book. He talks a lot about harmony. Here, let me find an example. Like on page 64, and he gives examples of harmony. He asks, what may one ask is organized knowledge except the harmony of facts and truths and naturalist law? And then he gives examples like poetry and music and architecture are all examples of harmony. And these groups, like if you have, like what Val's saying, if you've got different levels of people and they're not in harmony, if like one person is flexing and trying to show off and trying to put down other people, you'll see this a lot in the reseller groups. Like people are mean and rude and petty. I'm like, what are y'all doing? But if they're in harmony, you're all trying to help each other. Because here's the interesting thing. Like I've given a couple suggestions that Chris was like, wow, that's great. He hadn't thought of that. Now, I take a lot more from him than I give, but even a brand new person brings something if you're open-minded and you're willing to listen to them.
I agree. Totally agree with you.
So yeah, he talks a lot about harmony, like all these groups. Like if you've got one person, and it's kind of like how you click with somebody, even like YouTube channels. Some YouTube channels, they might be good content, but you may not click. Like I prefer, Clay and I talk about this a lot. Like I prefer Daily Refinement, where he's more of a Renzi, the reseller. Which his channel is good, but to me, he's just more pushing the emotion, and he's got a real good vibe, which is great. But when I'm looking for nuggets, actionable nuggets, and I don't get a lot from him, maybe one or two, but I can watch Chris, and every day I'm going to get something new from him. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but with these masterminds, it's kind of like what you were saying, Nikki, that you have to find the ones that click with your personality, and that's the harmony he's talking about. You have to find your tribe, your group of people where you click, and you can power off of each other and get better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. What else? It's kind of interesting. Like on page 32, he talks about thoughts, and this is where it kind of gets out there a little bit. And he says, he compares thoughts. He said, the thought waves are similar to the wireless waves. Because earlier he was talking about, well, actually, he was talking about vibration. He talks a lot about vibration, which sounds weird. Like if you take a fork or something and you bonged it, like you would feel the vibration at a certain level as it's moving. Vibration is just the rate of movement, right? The frequency of a wave moving. You'll feel it at a certain point, but as it vibrates faster, you'll then be able to hear it at a certain frequency. And as it keeps vibrating even faster, that's where like radio waves come in. You can't see them, but they're traveling through the air. And if you keep going higher, he talks about a microwave, like the microwave effect. That's what a microwave is. It's the vibration at a very, very high level that actually produces heat. And he implies that your thought, and he talks a lot about, you know, neural connections and how like if you take someone who's dead and you hit them with a bolt of electricity that's strong enough, like the body watches it move. And so he comes to this point, this thesis that your thought is a very high vibration frequency, and that those thoughts go out. And this is interesting. Like he says, there's two ways that you can think, two ways of thought. One is like cognitive, where you're actually actively thinking, reading, taking in information. That's the common one. But he also brings up this idea of the epiphany, or an idea that comes out of the blue. And I think we've all had those. Like you weren't even thinking about stuff that just comes to you. And his idea, it sounds a little out there, but I'm kind of trying to be open to it. It's that our thoughts are shooting out there, and almost like the universe is a storehouse. Like these thoughts, they don't dissipate. They're just at a very, very high frequency. And that sometimes your epiphany or an idea that you have out of the blue is actually someone else's thought, somewhere else in time and place, that is just entered into your mind. I know that sounds a little weird, but at the same time, it's kind of intriguing to me. I'm like,
there's a lot more things that are a lot weirder nowadays, you know, or more. It's crazy. So I mean, it's very feasible.
Yeah. So I mean, like I've had those. Have you ever had those where you just have an idea out of the blue? You're like, wow, epiphany.
Yeah, and you say you're like, that's such an epiphany. Yep, I've done that before.
Right, and you weren't even thinking about it. And I think it probably has something to do with your subconscious too. That, like going back to that definitive goal, as far as we're talking about being successful. So what he says, and I've read his other books, and we haven't got to it in here, but he says you develop a very specific goal on a timeline, right? Like for example, by the end of 2020, I'm gonna make $100,000 in sales. Then you state what you're gonna do, what you're gonna give up, because you're gonna have to give up something. What are you gonna give up to do that? In order to make this happen, I'm going to work 8 hours on reselling. That includes sourcing, listing, customer service, all of that. spend an hour a day taking in content to learn and grow. Like you're very specific. So your goal is $100,000 in sales. I'm going to devote 8 hours of my day to do this, and this is going to happen by December 31st, 2020. Then you write that goal down on a sheet of paper.
But people need to know that it needs to be goals that are obtainable, because it really hurts your self-confidence if you put a goal way out there and you can't reach it. Like mine was 10 grand this year. That was my goal, to make 10 grand. I've already made that, and I've exceeded it, and I'm so proud of myself. And that's a lot for me, because I made 6 grand last year. That's what, and I resold. I was sold all year round. And this year I've already, and it's only July. I'm like so proud of myself. I really am. Like it's been a lot of hard work.
Congratulations. Yeah, I do think they need to be reasonable, but I think you can also push yourself a little bit, because we can accomplish way more. I think we limit ourselves. Kind of like Val, you were talking about this, not writing goals because you want an easy way out. Like it's too easy. I just want to make enough to get by. But like Chris talks about this, why not have an abundant life where you can give to others and eventually buy back your time and to give back. So anyway, so you write that goal down, and that's awesome, by the way, Nikki. And then you're supposed to read it first thing in the morning and right before you go to bed every day. And that just kind of seeps into your subconscious. And it's like, belief is a very powerful thing, and you can convince yourself of something by repeating it. I mean, it's kind of like the corny self-help books. You stand in the mirror, I am beautiful, I am smart. You say that, it sounds
I do
corny,
that. I write it on my mirror. I do that.
but it works. It works. Your mind believes it. And then once you believe it, I think that's the biggest problem, is once we believe we can do something, then
yes, I agree totally. Because I am firsthand. I had to do it every day, and this has been about 10 years ago, but I had to do it every day for over a year straight. I was in a really, really bad relationship for 7 years, and I was getting out of it, and my self-esteem was so low, and I had to do it every day for over a year. But one day I woke up and didn't have to do it ever again, and that's what people need to know. You might have to do it a long time, but it will help.
Well, it's that tipping point. All right, think about it like this, and I don't know which book I read this. It might have been Napoleon Hills or someone else's. All right, so you take a piece of ice, right, and it's negative 20 degrees, but that piece of ice wants to become steam. And if you make a small change each day, like if you repeat that every day, right, that small change, there's a certain point, like it goes up 1 degree per day, and you see no change. The ice is ice at negative 20, negative 19, negative 18. It seems like there's no change for like 50 days, but eventually it hits 32 or 33 degrees, and it seems like magic. It begins to melt. There's a sudden change. It seems like it's a sudden change, but the truth is it's been that gradual, consistent change every day, but you're not seeing anything. It's like what you're saying. There's going to be a certain point where that tipping point, it's called the tipping point, that tipping point where it all kicks in, and it's going to seem like this success came out of nowhere. But the truth is, and in our case, it's probably months or years of consistent work, and then you're going to have that change. Let's see. Clay said law of attraction. He said it's also, you can jump on too, my friend. It's like when you think of someone, they could have thought of you just before that. Yeah, that's kind of like we were talking about those thought waves. Yeah, that could be true. There's a lot of superstitions about that. What's your ear itches, someone's talking about you. He says it's like a marathon. I have 3 goals. A goal is the big one.
That's actually good. Sorry, go ahead, Brian. I was reading it.
No, that's fine. Yeah, jump in because I don't want to talk to you. I want y'all to input. I have 3 goals. A goal is the big one, but if race doesn't go well, a B goal and a C goal. That way you might be let down, but not much.
I'm going to have to do that. I've never thought about doing that. That's actually probably a really good idea for my psyche. Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to push back a little bit, Clay. I'm going to push back. I think, this is hard, right? Like on one hand, you do want to kind of have options. But in Napoleon Hill's other book, Think and Grow Rich, he gives examples of like there's this ancient Greek king and he invaded another island and he was outmanned like 3-1 and his men knew it. So when he landed on the shore, he had all the soldiers burn all the boats. So it was either win or die. So there was no go B, there was no go C, it was win or die. And I think our goals can be like that. Like if you give yourself too many outs, like, hey, if I don't hit my goal in reselling, I can always do Uber or I can always do this. If you give yourself too many outs, you're not fully committing to that goal. And if you don't fully commit to that goal, you're not going to succeed. So that's
Yeah,
what
it probably
Napoleon
just depends
did.
on what type personality you are, what type of, basically which type of personality you are is probably what the best. But me and Clay have a lot of similarities in our personalities. And I can definitely see that would probably help me, because that's the type of person I am. I'm so hard on myself. I am so, so, so hard on myself. And I do one thing wrong and it's like the end of the world for me. And I want to build Rome, I want to build Greece, and I want to build China all in one day together. I don't want to wait. I'm impatient. And it's a really big downfall of mine. And I know that it's a big, big, big downfall in my personality.
Well,
And
I think that's a downfall. I think we all have issues we have to work on, but I think like going back to those 15 laws of success, like you really kind of have to get a handle on all 15 for these goals to really work. And so I think as you go through it, you can figure out like which areas maybe you need to shore up and grow in a little bit. But no, I get that. Like I will sometimes spiral a little bit too and get down on myself and beat myself up too. So I definitely get that. What do you think, Val? What do you think about the goals?
I am the opposite of Nikki. I'm more
I
like,
figured you were, Val. I figured you were, and I figured you and Brian were the same type of personality. I really did.
Brian are.
You guys are both very like analytical. I'm talking just about your like personality styles. You guys both are a lot alike from what I see from both of you. I'm just going by with what I see.
Yeah, Val's much more funny than I am, but yeah. So what were you saying about your
she's
goals?
kind of cuter.
Yeah, well, I'll give her that for sure.
Yeah, if you look at that photo of me, that's.
Yeah, wow. I don't know. She's having a bad hair day looking at her picture. So what were you saying about goals, Val?
I was just saying, well, Nikki, she wants to do it all, build it all in one day. And I'm the type of person that's like, well, there's tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. There's always next week.
So kind of putting, and I think going back to the book, that's why he puts a date on it, right? Mm-hmm. The goal has to have a date to accomplish. Or I think we all do that, right? We all procrastinate. I'll get to it tomorrow or the next day, and yeah, you can push it. You can push it back. Clay, what are you eating? Clay's eating, and he says, yeah, Clay's big on baby steps. And good to have the main goal and push for it, but things happen, and sometimes we can't control it. So that's why I say have a big goal. But I'm gonna push back again, Clay. We'll push back again. But if we always say things can happen, then we're not gonna fully commit to the main goal. But what if we fully committed to the main goal and we gave it everything we had? And then if something that you couldn't control happened, I would say this. I think you should be able to adjust. Like if you have a reselling business and a tornado comes and destroys obviously your goal is going to be set back. There's going to be things we can't control, but I think if we go into it thinking about those things we can't control, we're giving ourselves an out, and then we're not going to work as hard as we can.
Yeah.
And I do agree, Clay, with the baby steps. Like I think to get to that big goal, it's a bunch of little baby steps, like the ice, right? Each day is a little step. And that builds on itself and it builds momentum. And before you know it, you're rocking and rolling. And Clay and I, we talk a lot about this.
Is there like a limit on how many goals you should have?
Well, he says you should have, well, I think you could have different goals in different parts of your life, right? But I think like in this, we're talking about business, it should be one main goal. Now, you could also have a fitness goal. Right, like I have a fitness goal. I want to be able to run in a 5K or a 10K, and I want to break under a 10-minute mile. And we can have relationship goals. You know, I think your different areas of your life. And here's the interesting thing: like what I found and what research kind of shows is like once you kind of get this formula down and you succeed in one area, you can kind of transfer that mindset into other areas of your life. You can get similar results. Like we took Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, all about personal finances, getting out of debt, saving, and not good at that. Like I'm horrible with finances, and I've taken this class twice. But they were talking about that people that have achieved success through the Financial Peace University, the research says many times they go on to be successful in other areas. Like they'll run marathons, and they develop and get better in other areas. A drive-by, fly-by. But they'll become successful in other areas of their lives using those same principles, just differently. So what kind of goals were you thinking about, Val?
Well, after you said that you should have one main goal in each, I think that's kind of where I was going wrong and overwhelming myself. I was thinking more of for goals, list 15 items a day, photograph a certain amount of items a day, blah, 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 blah. But really, all of those little goals are leading up to the one big goal. So I think I was intimidating myself with all of these goals when really there's not all these goals. Those are just the steps to get to my main goal.
Exactly. You said it perfectly, right? Like your main goal is this, and there's certain things you're gonna have to do those steps to get to that. If you don't do the steps, you're not gonna hit the goal.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of thought on how you can get those steps accomplished. Like if you want to list, like we've determined, or Chris has determined, if you can list 15 items a day, if you do that consistently, 5 or 6 days a week, you will generate a full-time income. You'll generate $50,000 plus a year if you just do that. And in our group, like I've seen the people that have done it. They're like this lady, Lynn, and a couple others. Once they get that habit formed and they do it consistently, the results come. The results come. But you've got to train yourself, and you've got to build up that stamina, because if you're not listing at all, to list 15 items a day, that's too much, right? So maybe like what Clay said, those baby steps. Maybe your first goal is to list an item a day for a week, and maybe the next week you go up to 2, and you just slowly until you get to 15. Like I was doing that when I was in the Mastermind group. I was doing 15 to 20, and my sales jumped way up. Like on eBay, they hit 7,000 in May. And I'm not in that group, and I'm pushing more in different areas now, but my sales, they've come down a bit. They're like maybe 5,000 versus 7,000. But because I was doing this. So if you can get those baby steps to a certain level and make that a habit where you don't even have to think about it, then it makes it easier to hit those big goals. Then you free up your time to think about, well, he's always talking about that. Like, how can I make this business model better? Like what we were talking about, Nikki, maybe using SellHound, maybe getting a VA. How can I free up my time? Because you have a good eye. You're talking about those 25-cent dolls that are worth 100. Your value is as a picker, right? Like not a lot of people have that skill. And I think all of us probably have that we can go out there and find those things. But easier task like listing, photography, shipping. That's why you pay someone, 10 to 15 bucks an hour typically, or per item, because that can be taught pretty easily. But to teach someone to have the eye to pick really good items, that's hard. So the goal is for yourself up to where you're making the big bucks. And if somebody's making 15 bucks an hour, but they're listing $200-$300 worth of items an hour that you've sourced, well, you're paying for them, plus everything else is just profit for you. So yeah, I think you said it well there, Paul. Clay says, that's why I'm working on fitness, being happier with myself and bonding more with others, then the reselling success will come. I'm not sure what that sentence means, Clay, but then the reselling, then it will come, because I need to feel good as me first. I know for sure. Now for sure. No. Okay. All right. Struggling reading Clay's writing there. I think he's talking about working on the mindset, and and that goes to his 15 laws, right? There were some of those on your mental attitude, and I think you do have to do those self-care items that keep you in the right mindset to be able to achieve these. So yeah, I don't think they're exclusive, but I would also say, you know, if your goal is to really be a full-time reseller, if you never set a specific goal and you don't figure out how many items you need to list a day, you're never going to achieve it either. And I think if you keep saying that, you know, one day I'll do it, and it's never going to arrive. So I think there is a balance there between self-care, mental attitude, and also getting the daily work done.
Mm-hmm. See, I think I'm the opposite of Clay. I think I have a better mental attitude to go deal or hang out with. DLC, I'm so introverted. I deal with people. I don't hang out with them. But I feel better hanging out with people if I've had a good day working.
See, that's good, Val. I'm the exact same way. To me, it's a reward. I use it as a reward. Like, that's why you're freshest in the morning. So why waste that energy? So, you know, I go for my run in the morning because it's too hot to do it later. I'd rather do it in the evening. But I do my run in the mornings on days I run, and then I get to work. You know, I do spend some time with my wife, having coffee and talking, bonding. But then I get to work early, usually by 9, and my goal is to be done by 3 or 4. And if I've put in that work, like kind of what you're saying, Val, then I can reward myself by, you know, going for a swim or watching a movie, hanging out with someone. Like that's the way my mind works. If I don't accomplish these you know, these little goals, these steps that I need to accomplish, then I can't reward myself.
Yeah.
So is that kind of what you're saying in a way?
Yeah. I feel restless at night. Like if I know that I didn't have a good days of work, like I feel stressed.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Nikki?
I think the stress sometimes leads to your living room looking like this. I mean, that's my living room. That's only one room. That's not even the bedroom I was talking about. I have it's in my dining room too. Oh my God. I don't know what to do, y'all. I'm stressed.
You got lots of money there. I mean, the practical thing, I think you already know this, is to stop the sourcing and get to listing.
But I can't help it. When you find stuff like this for 10 cents, and I got 2 of them, and I listed them for 115, I mean.
No, I get it. Like my garage.
I can't pass it up.
It's really hard. Like, I think there is a mindset, and I had that for the longest time. I can relate to that. Like, there's so much money out there, whether you're looking at auctions, garage sales, thrift stores. Like, I was online auction. Like, I'm buying things for $1 that are worth $50, $100, and they're out there nonstop. But I was buying so much inventory, now my garage is overflowing with it.
Oh no, that's not even my garage. I bought a pallet, and my whole garage, I can't even fit nothing in it. My door's open. No, you don't even understand, guys. I've really got in over my head. I'm like, oh, I'm about ready to hyperventilate.
So what's your first step with all of that?
Making mystery boxes, not so mystery boxes.
There you go.
Like Valerie did.
There you go.
That's good. And
I've sold quite a few from the pallet I got from that Goodwill outlet. Like at least 30 or 40 pieces of inventory. So, and that was a couple days. I just need to list some more. This lady just met me today, and she gave me like 6 trash bags full of it's like a lot of Stitch Fix with tags on it, and like more Athleta and Fabletics with tags on it. And people just give me this stuff, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, how can I turn it down? Because I'll donate whatever I don't use.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you just.
So maybe I should just.
It's like our Mastermind. You've got Val, the mystery box queen. So maybe you can work with her to move bulk items.
Well, I've watched all of her mystery box things, and she did a really good job because she did like the auctions, the silent auctions on YouTube, which I thought was that was a mastermind right there. Like I would have never thought of that. That was a really good idea, Valerie, by the way.
Like I wanted to put in the least amount of work. I didn't want to have to photograph everything. So that's the big thing. So yeah, if you do them.
How did you go about doing that?
Instagram and my YouTube for you to get more.
What'd you say? I didn't.
I said, let me know when you start doing them, and I'll promote it on my Instagram and on my YouTube to get more people to go over and see them.
That'd be great. I would really appreciate it. Beautiful.
Also,
I get anxiety thinking about it right now because I know how much I have.
and this might just be me, but I think one thing that would help me with handling that much stuff, it's what I had to do with my piles too, is just to organize it all.
That's what I'm doing right. That's why it's in every room. I'm going to have a yard sale starting next weekend. I'm doing bag sale. Come get clothes. I'm going to do a bag sale for my yard sale. $5 bags of clothes. And I know people will come. There's all kinds of, I'm in Seattle area. Everybody resells. So I guess that's what's going to be the start of it. That's what's starting in my dining room is my yard sale stuff and like all my like anything that's Banana Republic, anything that's like that, you know, good mall brands that I'm not going to put anything I wouldn't sell out, but I'm going to do a bag sale, I guess. I guess that's my first option.
Or maybe do a YouTube, YouTube auction. I don't know. Like maybe
I've never even went live before on my own. I'm a baby when it comes to that because I hate rejection. So why put myself out there like that?
I think when I went live, I only had 10 people watching me.
I was one of them.
But all 10 of those people were talking with me. So that made
You were so hilarious. You were hilarious, Valerie. You have a knack for that.
Yeah, so maybe you can work with Val to get that figured out. Yeah, but I think some type of bulk sale, whether it's garage sales or mystery boxes or whatnot. And then because it's stressing you out, you just said that. So once that's manageable, kind of what Clay's talking about, because it does stress people out when they have a big death pile. You're like, oh, I got to get to it.
Sick to my stomach. I'm sick to my stomach all the time. I'm late for everything now. These last 2 weeks, I have had so much on my plate dealing with all my home life and then all this work life. And I feel like I'm just getting ready to lose my mind. I feel like I'm like there. I'm almost there and I'm having to keep it together.
All right. I guess getting back to the book a little bit, Thomas Paine, like when I was in college, like I double majored in literature and history. So Thomas Paine obviously is one of the founding fathers, big American Revolution guy. By the way, I don't know if y'all seen Hamilton. We watched it on Disney Channel this past weekend. Amazing. But anyway, Thomas Paine, I think he was the first one with this idea on thought. So I'm going to read this little quote that he said, and maybe we can talk about it. He said, there are two distinct classes of what are called thoughts. Those that we produce in ourselves by reflection and the act of thinking. So those are like the active ones. And those that bolt into the mind of their own accord. So the ones that just come to us. I've always made it a rule to treat those voluntary visitors with civility, taking care to examine as well as I was able, as if they were worth entertaining. And it is from them I have acquired almost all the knowledge that I have. So this is a guy, he wrote a lot of the literature during the American Revolution. He's in the Federalist Papers. And so he's saying that almost all of his great ideas just came to him. And that's interesting to me. He said, as to the learning that any person gains from school education, it serves only like a small capital to put him in the way of beginning learning for himself afterwards. Every person of learning is finally his own teacher, the reason for which is that principles cannot be impressed upon the memory. Their place of mental residence is the understanding, and they are never so lasting as when they began by conception. So it's kind of interesting. Like he was talking about, and Napoleon Hill talks about this, like formal education, and me as a teacher, it's almost contradictory. But like what you learn in school, like Thomas Paine is saying that what you really learn is how to learn on your own. And when I was a police officer, I remember going through the academy and we had this giant law book, the Texas Penal Code. And there's no way anybody could learn all those laws. So you learn the most common ones and then you learn how to find the other ones when you need them. And that's kind of what he's saying is like the true value of school education is to train yourself to be able to find information you need later in life. Mm-hmm. And kind of like what we're doing, like whether it's through YouTube, through Google, through a library, through a book, that your life is a consistent, continual journey of learning and then adapting the knowledge you need to fit into your goal. Because think about the opportunities that are out there for us. There's so many opportunities and there's so much information it can almost overwhelm us. So we have to like be able to organize all this information and knowledge in a way that fits with our goal. And Clay and I talk about this a bit, that like one of my problems is I jump from one thing to the other too much, and I will try a different model and it'll succeed, but then I want to try a different model and try a different model. Like I almost worry that it's the road not taken, right? What am I missing out on when I should just focus on that one goal and then organize that knowledge, find that knowledge that supports it. And I feel like I'm rambling right now. I don't know. Y'all have any thoughts on that?
You're not rambling. I'm making me something to eat. Sorry.
What are you making?
I'm making a salad with grilled chicken on top of it.
Nice, healthy. Yeah, we started doing the Mediterranean diet this week, so I'm trying to drop some pounds, and lots of salads, lots of healthy fats and things like that. But I do have my cheat day, which I look forward to.
I've gained so much weight being on quarantine. I've probably put on 25 pounds in quarantine. Like I can't fit in any of my clothes. So I mean, I've had to do something because I've always been big. I've always been, 300 pounds, and I worked hard to lose as much weight as I had. And then to put 25 pounds back on is really, really hard on my psyche. So I decided just to diet. So I've lost a couple pounds, but not much.
But bringing it back to the book, you have the knowledge. You picked up the knowledge along the way to make those weight loss, and that's a very impressive accomplishment, by the way. So you acquired that knowledge and you know how to implement it, which is really crucial, obviously.
And you know what? At the time that I started losing weight, I thought I starved myself and I would never hardly tell anybody. But then I realized here recently I had actually been intermediately fasting and just didn't realize it when I was doing it. I haven't done it in years, but I still can't even go back to that. I feel like I'm starving myself. I like to eat. I like food.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the intermittent fasting is effective too because your body basically taps into the fat. If you can shorten that window. Like the 23-1 is the ultimate, where you just eat for like 1 hour of the day. But a lot of them, as you work towards the 16-8, where basically you cut out one of the meals and you eat like maybe lunch and dinner between 12 to 8, and then your body is then.
I had never heard of that 23-1. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
It's like a very advanced one, and a lot of people try to get to the 20/4. But the 23-1, like I remember Herschel Walker, like a big Dallas Cowboy back in the day, and he talked about that. He only ate one big meal a day, and he was ripped and muscular and lean. And I was like, man, that dude's crazy, but he was ahead of his time. All right. All right. The other thing he talks about is interconnectedness of minds. Kind of relating to that mastermind, and it's almost kind of like how people click or they don't click. Once again, kind of come into the harmony, and that's how a successful mastermind. You need that. You need that harmony and that connectedness, and also on page 43, he talks about how a mastermind. Here, I'll just read it. He says, the brain of a human being may be compared to an electric battery in that it will become exhausted or run down, causing the owner of it to feel despondent, discouraged, and lacking in pep. The human brain, when in this depleted condition, must be recharged. I mean, it kind of sounds like burnout is what he's talking about. And the manner in which this is done is through the contact with a more vital mind or minds. The great leaders understand the necessity of this recharging process, and moreover, they understand how to accomplish this result. This knowledge is the main feature which distinguishes a leader from a follower. And then he kind of goes on to kind of, that's another benefit of the mastermind. It's like, you're burned out or you're kind of down, so you get into a good mastermind, and the energy of the group, everybody kind of working together, that energy that's created kind of recharges you. And I would say for myself that I found that very true. And I kind of like what you're saying, Val. Like I'm an introvert, and I've always been like the lone wolf type. Like I can do it all by myself. I don't need anyone. That's always been my mindset. But over the past year or two, I'm realizing that you really are way more effective when you put yourself in the right group of people. You're the right mastermind. That it can recharge you. It can really help take you to new levels. Y'all got any thoughts on that?
I just think I've not found the right groups yet.
So what type of group do you think? So what would you be looking for? So what would your ideal mastermind group consist of, you think?
Something that keeps me accountable, which I think to find that, like, it has to be other people that want that accountability. Like in your guys' little group, I think y'all are like on top of your game. So none of you guys need somebody to keep you accountable.
Oh, I do. Oh my God, Valerie, if you only knew. I'm slacker. I'm a slacker. I'm a slacker. I'm a slacker.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. Like I thought about that, like almost creating a Patreon group of resellers, and more geared to like trying to pull people up from the lower rungs where we can like all hold each other accountable and we can all problem solve, and we can all goal set and kind of like what Chris does, but like on a more of a beginner level. Because like, all right, when you say that, like we don't need anyone to hold us accountable, I kind of get that, but I think we kind of feed off of each other. Like it almost comes across as people are bragging in there, right? That, oh, hey, I've got these cells, or I found this thing that sold for this. But like to me, it kind of motivates me. I'm like, well, number one, like we share in that group, like Scott, and we all do this. We'll share really good bolos, things that you could go out and buy and make good money on.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you like even the links, like you guys make it so easy for each other and you share so much with each other. I think that's cool. I mean, obviously, I'm only a posher, so none of those things really.
Valerie, you're just a posture. You don't have to. That's good. You're doing it. It's not just you. You got this. I mean, you have good items in your closet. You live in a place where you're able, just like I am. You find just as good of stuff as I do. You know, if not better. And I'm telling you, if you could really excel if you would just believe in yourself a little bit, just a little bit. You got this, girlfriend. You got this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wouldn't say just a Poshmark. Poshmark's a very good platform. It's my
yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I just started eBay, Valerie, and I was just a posher, and I just started eBay. Mercari, I think, would be good for your next step. I think you would feel a lot more comfortable with Mercari than you would with eBay.
Yeah, Mercari's a lot easier, and so maybe branch out that way to cross list those items. And then you can maybe, if you want to, maybe you if you come across hard goods too, you can sell those on Mercari as well. Like I list on, like I've done so many platforms, but like right now I do Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari, and OfferUp. Like I know there's a lot of money on Amazon, and I did a little bit of Amazon, but I don't know. Like I've just heard too many horror stories. Like even one of the guys on Chris's Patreon, one of the big guys, multi-million-dollar seller, his account out of the blue was just they canceled it, and that's what he was in there. He was trying to get help to get his account reactivated. And I just think Amazon. I mean, I know there's so much potential there, but it just scares me. I feel safer with the other ones. But back to your main point, like I mean, don't think that you're just a posher. You bring a lot to the table, and don't put yourself down like that.
Yes, she does.
All right. So what else? And this is a little bit more of a difficult book to go through. And then he gives examples of success with Ford and Edison and Firestone. Then he has another example of a very powerful mastermind group. He called them the Big Six. It's around page 52. And this included, all right, he says, he said the big six consisted of Wrigley Jr., which obviously the Wrigley gum, who owns the chewing gum business bearing his name, whose individual income is said to be more than $15 million a year. Now, keep in mind, this is in 1928, so 15 million would be way more now. Julius R. Thompson, who operates the chain of lunchrooms. Mr. Lasker, who owns an advertising agency. Mr. McCullough, who owns an express company, the largest transfer business. Mr. Ritchie, Mr. Hertz, who owns the yellow taxi cab business. And obviously Hertz has now evolved into a rental. But these real six big business leaders all came together, and they would meet regularly. Like he said, these men formed a friendly alliance, meeting at stated periods for the purpose of assisting one another with ideas and suggestions in their various and sundry lines of business endeavors. These meetings were strictly for the purpose of cooperating on the give and take basis of assisting one another with ideas and suggestions, and occasionally by endorsing notes and other security. So, like I think masterminds can be different levels. But he's given some very big, very successful people. I think he's trying to illustrate the point, because back then people weren't doing these masterminds. There were very few of them. And so he kind of brought it mainstream. And then later he talks about like sales company and car salesmen. Like they'd form masterminds and they would have friendly competitions. Like whoever sold the most got this VIP status and they get a bonus. So he gave a lot. An insurance salesman, and he then later talks about, he compares it to like a church revival, like when you, like if you go to church, there's, you know, they call it the Holy Spirit, but through the worship music and everyone, that's really a mastermind if you think about church in a way. Like everyone's on the same page, they're worshiping, there's music, and you can feel the energy in the air change, whether you want to call it the Holy Spirit, or in his case, he said you could call it a mastermind, that you can create that same energy. And when you think about these big self-help gurus that come and people come to watch to get motivated, these motivational speakers, that's what they're doing. They're creating this energy through music, and you're bringing all these people with like minds together, and it creates this energy that through this mastermind, where people are, their batteries are like supercharged. And he even talks about like they looked at the research, like after a mastermind group, the number of cells will like double or triple, and then over time it'll slowly come back down. So these mastermind groups need to be regular, to kind of serve as a source of knowledge and inspiration, but also to recharge. And what's interesting is these things weren't being done. Like he brought all these things we take for granted, they weren't being done before him. So he got all these ideas from studying like over 100 of the first millionaires in America, and he kind of took what they did and put all this together and came up with the idea of the mastermind group. And I'm rambling again.
No, you're not. I'm eating. Sorry.
So what do y'all think? I mean, like right now, what we're doing, once again, it's a mastermind group. We're on a smaller scale, right? We're like Nikki's talking about her problem of too much inventory, and we're giving her some ideas, trying to encourage her. Val, you know, is feeling down on herself. Maybe I'm inferring that maybe you feel like you don't measure up, but we don't see you that way, and trying to help with the confidence, which is kind of what it sounds like the only issue is. So, you know, in effect, we have our own little masterminds.
And you, Brian, you're teaching us something. I mean, I think it's great how much you sell a month. I really look up to you. Like, I'm like, damn, he's, even as a teacher, when you were teaching, you know, and you weren't out of school, I mean, you did it. You did it too. Like, you don't give yourself enough credit either.
No, thanks. For me, I don't know. Like, I just drank in all this information, and I've always kind of had like this dreamer mentality, and almost like a challenge. Like I love challenges, and like once I found a few people, like Chris was the big one. and learn from them. And bona fide hustler back in the day. He was one of the first ones I watched. Rake and Profit. A few others that I just kind of learned from, and then I was like, let's just go for it. And then, but really Chris, because Chris talks a lot. He reads a lot of books, and he implements these things in his reselling, and he will give book suggestions and podcast suggestions. Like, he spends a lot of time learning about being successful. And like we were talking about, he sets these goals, and he doesn't really have time for somebody that's not serious. If you're serious, like, he will bend over backwards to help you, but you got to have the right mindset in there, because he realizes that time is very valuable. And those people just kind of motivate me to, like, just constantly keep setting a little bit higher goals, because we can accomplish so much more than we think we can, but we have limiting beliefs. We come up with reasons why we can't, or excuses why we can't, and all the information's out there. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about organizing this knowledge, creating these masterminds to support us, to give us knowledge, and to recharge us, and to reach higher levels. And that's why I want to turn this channel over. Like, I lost 7 or 8 subscribers since I've switched modes. Like, even right now in this live, the viewer count is very low. But and the other thing is, like, I've made this.
I'm getting so much out of this, Brian. I'm getting so much out of this. You have encouraged me so much on this live. Really, you have. I feel so much better. Like, my breathing has calmed down. I really do. So don't think this is useless, because it's not. It's not. It's helping people. It's helping me.
Yeah, you've given me a lot to think about. I'm actually gonna make detailed goals after this.
Ooh, so we can talk about that as we wrap it up here in a minute. But well, thank you. And like, the next book I'm gonna read, and I'll share that with y'all. Maybe we can get into that one for the next book study. It's about being vulnerable. It's from Brene Brown. Like, she's been on TED Talks and on Oprah, and she studied like failure and shame and all these things, and the people who overcame these things. But the key thing is being vulnerable. It's like, it takes courage to try something new, to risk something new. And when I thought about this, like, if I just kept doing my Poshmark closet reviews and my what solds, like, my growth was slow, but it was moving up there. Mm-hmm. But once I made the switch to mostly wholesale, I'm like, well, I can't share that. And honestly, I kind of got burned out on that. I'm like, there's too many people doing it. And like, all right, I told Clay, like, I want to make this change. I'm kind of worried that very few people will care. But I became at peace with it. I'm like, you know what? Even if I can just help a couple of people, and I lose 500 subscribers, but I'm able to help a few people, that's more important to me. Because I realize one thing, like, as you deal with a lot of resellers, you see the struggles that people have, and most of it's mindset. So you can tell everyone what to do, but if you don't actually go into how to change your mindset, and how that's what this book is. Like, it's a guide to being successful in business. So I figured, let's go through this book, and let's try to implement these things, and let's see if we can pull some people up. Even if we just pull a couple of people up and they become more successful, then to me that would be worth. I think you can't put a monetary value on that.
And I think in the end, like, even if you are going to lose a few people, I think in the end, this group that you are building, this new mastermind group that you're building, is just really cool. And everyone that's here participating, they're all in this same mindset, and we all have relatively same goals that we're going for. Mm-hmm. I like that.
I concur with Valerie.
And also, I work on the computer like all day, listing, sharing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And throughout the whole entire day, I have reseller content playing in the background, just trying to absorb whatever I can. And just so you know, I think this video tonight was the most useful thing I've heard all day.
I agree. I totally agree, Brian. Totally agree. I'm so excited about this.
Well, that made my day. Thank you for those kind words. And it's not me, it's us. And that's why I wanted y'all on. I wanted some people on here, especially you two.
I
because
think
I'm like,
Valerie is like me, and we look up to you. I mean, both of us. I feel like I've looked up to you since the very first live I ever joined in on yours, and then I mean, it just went from there. I do. I look up to you. You have a lot of knowledge, and you're very, like I said, you're analytical. You go into detail. And you're not scared to hurt people's feelings. You know, I hate to guess what people are thinking, and you're not scared. You know, if something's not, if it's not the right thing, or if you don't think it necessarily is going to work, you're not scared to be like, that's wrong. You know, but if you're not also scared to say you are wrong.
yeah, it's like a dual-edged sword. Like the way I was raised, like I always been taught to say what I think and to be upfront and honest. But I do think that like it could come across the wrong way, and I need to be more diplomatic about it. So I'm trying to work on that. But at the same time, if I see someone and they tell me they have a certain goal, they tell me how they're doing. Like if you're trying to make a cake and you're telling me your recipe for making a cake is 2 cups cornmeal, a cup of salt and a pinch of pepper, I know that cake is going to be horrible. You're not. So why am I can't say yeah. Go on and make that cake because that cake's not going to be good. Because I know you want a good chocolate cake with icing, so you need flour and a pinch of salt.
That's really good about you. I would just grin and eat that cake.
All right, so I make this cake, this horrible cake. What are you going to say? How was the cake?
That was good. I ate every bite of it. Gave it to my dog.
Your dog dies. So I think we owe it to be honest with people, but to do it in a way to uplift them. And that's what I try to do. And I just, because people uplifted me and people have helped me and they're still helping me. That little group, Scott and Kevin and Scott, when when Clay and I first started those Thursday nights, we were nervous as heck. And, they came on and helped us and brought us some subscribers, and they've always been loyal. And we started that little chat. And so I owe a lot to those guys too. And I don't say that enough.
Kevin knows his stuff too. I really enjoy Kevin, and not a lot of people, get Kevin's personality. Like you said, it's not necessarily he's boasting, and a lot of people think that Kevin is boasting. And I'm here to say that Kevin is not boasting. He's just letting you know, but he also lets you know when he messes up. I've heard him. I've seen him type it in lives. When he's messed up. I've read it with my own eyes, and a lot of people just don't really get his personality. But he's not boastful. To me, I don't think he is. I think he's just trying to tell people that that's what you could do,
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, and here's the thing. Yeah, I think his personality, maybe some people don't take it the right way, but Kevin will really help you. Like if you reach out to Kevin will reach out to you. He really will help you. But I think sometimes those kind of we're talking about the mastermind, those personalities maybe don't click. And and here's the thing: we don't all have
knowledgeable. He's very knowledgeable.
Oh, he is very knowledgeable. Yeah, I mean, he really knows his stuff. Like if you're doing clothing, especially, but he knows a lot of stuff. Like he really knows it. Yeah, and I don't think you have to agree with everyone on everything to be able to form a mastermind. Like we all have differences and different opinions on different things, but if we have the same or a similar goal in mind, that diversity, those differences can actually come into play and make us each stronger. Like if you think about it, like if everybody was exactly the same personality, the same knowledge, we would never grow. And because everybody, I keep coming back to this, everyone has something to offer. And I think sometimes we think. Like it took me a lot of courage to join Chris's Patreon group. It took me like a year or two. I was watching since he was 10K on the bay. And I'm like, I was so nervous, even though I was a fairly successful reseller, to go live with him. Like that terrified me at first. So we all have our own demons and self-doubt, which is a good segue to the last part of the lesson 4. He talks about your 6 most dangerous enemies. And these are, and I'll kind of talk about these, and maybe we can talk about this. All right. So And this is throughout humanity. The first one is the fear of poverty. And it's kind of interesting. He says the fear of poverty grows out of man's habit of preying upon his fellow man economically. He's like, historically it was like the stronger guy could prey on the weaker guy, but as our civilization has evolved, now we prey on each other economically. He says, man with his superior sense of intuition, and man it's inclusive. He's man meant humanity. Man with his superior sense of intuition and his more powerful weapon of thought does not eat his fellow man like animals do, but he gets more pleasure from eating him financially. So that's one of the fears of poverty, and especially right now, it's very appropriate with unemployment really high, with the pandemic and layoffs. That fear of poverty could be very strong. The next one is the fear of old age. Obviously getting old, dying, thoughts of what comes after life. The third one is the fear of loss of love of someone. You fear losing someone you're close to. And I think this can prevent us sometimes from making connections because we're afraid to lose someone. Like some people, if you think about it, some people, they never truly are willing to love someone because they've been hurt. They probably lost someone and they're not willing to open themselves up to love. And the next one is the fear of criticism. And that's one for me. He says, just how and where man got this fear is difficult to determine, but is certain that he has it. But for this fear, men would not become, and this was dumb, like he did have some stupid, he was talking about how men would become bald back then because in the 1920s people were wearing hats, and he was blaming it on men would wear hats for vanity and it would make them go bald, which is dumb. But I think the bigger point is we do have a fear of criticism, of people judging us. And then last one is the fear of death. And obviously that's a very common fear. So you guys got any thoughts of those fears that can kind of hold us back? Once again, they are, it's poverty, death, ill health. I think I skipped that one. Loss of love, old age, and criticism. Do any of those kind of ring true, or do y'all have any thoughts on those fears?
All of them.
All of them? Is there one that maybe holds you back more than the others?
I think criticism is what holds me back the worst, and all, stems. I know my imperfections and I dwell on them. I'm just that type of person. And I think that, I don't like the way that I view myself. I'm very, like I said, I'm very hard on myself, and I'm getting back to the point where I'm actually having to write myself little notes on the mirror, and it really sucks. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the fear of criticism. I think that's what and ultimately holds me back in every aspect of my life is criticism. I know I went all the way around that like I normally do. No, I went all the way around that, and I said everything I needed to say, but what I really wanted to say.
No, it was clear. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, the fear of criticism, like that's probably mine too. Like with our therapist, we're talking about like the four, and I was even mentioned this on Emily's show last night. Like these are the four harbingers of divorce, but you can also apply this to relationships, right? And these are four bad things you don't want to see in a relationship. Criticism is one of them. Defensiveness, which kind of goes with criticism. Mm-hmm. I become very defensive. And that's a problem because then I want to argue and fight versus being open to the problem. But anyway, it's criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, like you're mad at someone.
Yes, I hate that. What about you, Valerie? What's your biggest?
Probably the criticism. I think that's why I'm so, like, if you met me in real life, I'm extremely, extremely quiet. I just assume every time I talk to people that they think I'm stupid. Like this right here coming on here.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. I think you're wonderful. I like to hear you talk. You should talk more.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. Like when Val speaks, it's always insightful. It's thought provoking. You're like, Like I think your ideas are really good, and it's the confidence and the fear of criticism, like you're saying. You got to overcome that because you have a lot to offer. I mean, you do too, Nikki. I mean, both of y'all do, and y'all are very uplifting, which is very important too. We need that. So.
Yeah, the world sucks. The world is really harsh. Like I've never understood, why people they thrive on other people's failures. Like that's what they thrive on. Instead of being uplifting and being like, you got this, they'll be like, kick you while you're down. People could be so cruel. And then you find those handful of people that just are genuinely care. And then you're like, what's their ulterior motive? Why do they care so much? At least that's the way I am. And I have to fight that. I have to fight that a lot. Like, why are they talking to me? I mean, why? What do they want? Because everybody's always wanted something in life. And I'm starting to meet people now that, are a different type of people. And they don't always want something from you. They just want to make sure that you're okay. And I have a hard time. Like I shut down a lot. I won't answer messages for days, except if it has to do with Poshmark. I mean, I won't. I will shut down for days if I've had a bad day, and it sucks. It sucks. I have to, because I'm always scared that somebody's out to get me. And I know that sounds maybe like a little paranoia, but it's really not. It's like the world is just so cruel. The world is really cruel.
Yeah, I think there are definitely people that prey on others, and I think they have their own issues that have kind of turned them that way that they need to obviously work on. But I also think there's a lot of good people out there, and maybe they just don't speak up enough, or we don't know. And maybe it's because we're not willing to open ourselves up to be vulnerable, to connect with these people. Maybe it's all the things we're talking about, fear of criticism, or that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't bring enough to the table. But it takes a spirit of being open and vulnerable, I think, to make those connections.
Valerie, we should do a collab and maybe go live one day together and like talk about these type of feelings. Like they're not spoke of enough. People don't want to say that they're feeling this type of way because the reason I don't is because I don't want people to think I'm just doing it just to grab the attention. I think that's why a lot of people don't, and they really do miss a good connection in life.
So what do you think? All right, so let's build on that a little bit. So why do you think most people aren't willing to open up and share their true emotions and feelings?
Fear of criticism.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it kind of goes to Brene Brown. I think if y'all like this talk, I think you will really love the next book. Like, let's get through this one so we can get our business success up to the next level, which we all want. And then the next one, the Brene Brown, I'll share that with y'all. And by the way, a few people out there watching, I think, I don't know, maybe next week I'll have a drawing based on comments or something, and I will buy the next book we're going to be studying. And that way you can read it, and you can actually join us if you like, or you can just read it and join the comments, or you can just.
That's a good idea, Brian. That's a good idea.
Anyway, the Brene Brown, it's all about vulnerability, and because you can't. The basis of it, the synopsis from what I read is, you can't live your best life unless you're willing to be vulnerable and to open up. And we're taught, especially as a guy, like this is hard. All right, so here's a little bit of my background. Like I was raised up, my dad was, I'm 6'4", my dad was 6'4", big Marine, served in Vietnam. Both my parents had really tough childhoods. So, they struggled to teach emotions and all this type of stuff. So I grew up introverted and not knowing how to open up emotionally. And then I became a police officer. And so then that's even reinforced more. You go in, you save the day, you kick ass, but you don't show any emotions. You hold it all in. And then being a man in our society, you also have, it's reinforced even more. So
I want to respond to what Clay wrote right quick before it disappears. It says he doesn't notice people putting him down. Maybe he's lucky or obvious, or because he's so nice they can't do it, or because I do it to myself. See, the reason I feel like people are putting me down because I put myself down so much. You know, that's why I feel like they are. And I don't give them a chance because I automatically assume that they think of me the same way I think of me. And I've always dealt with, you know, self-worth, you know, just self, and I've maybe went like 6 years, these past 6 years, and have not felt that. And I'm starting to feel it again. And I feel like people view me the same way I view myself. So I think that's where Clay and I are different right there.
Okay. Yeah. Clay says, I don't notice people put me down. Maybe I'm lucky or oblivious, or because I'm so nice they can't do it, or because I do it to myself. I don't know. Is that a blessing or a curse to not notice when people are putting you down? Seems like a blessing in a way. Like with my fear of criticism, I think I'm hypersensitive to it. And since we all share that, I don't know. What do y'all think? Maybe we're always looking for that, and maybe sometimes it's not even there, but we read into it when it's not there.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
All right.
And that's what I was trying to say. I just went around about it. See, sometimes you have to just reel me in, Brian.
No, it's fine. That's how my wife is. My wife will. She's very eloquent, but man, she will tell stories, and she's a good orator. But my mind is like, all right, I'm trying to pull the essence out. So what you're saying is, and I just try to pull the conclusion.
See, I like that because I have a hard time expressing myself, and I get really, really aggravated with myself because I have what I want to say in my head, but I can't find the correct words to say it the way I want to. And I've noticed, you know, when you do that, you actually say exactly what I wanted to say, but it couldn't get it out. So I really appreciate that aspect of you.
Well, thank you. Well, I just read a book before I started. It's called I Hear You. It's about validation. And let me talk about this real quick. So, like, when we go through our day, like most people, they're wanting validation. They're wanting to be heard, and they're wanting their emotions to be recognized. Sometimes they want help with a problem, but mostly people just go through wanting to. It all comes down to being connected. That you want someone to hear whatever issues you're having, whether good, you know, share with the joy, or you're having a bad day, something's going wrong. You want to be heard, and then you want to validate, and then sometimes they want that help, but I think part of the validation process is actually listening and hearing someone. And part of that is kind of like restating what they're saying. It kind of proves that you're listening. And then that kind of forms a sense of, that I feel heard. And just creates a sense of connection.
And I like what David put, when good people do nothing, evil prevails. Like, I've never heard that before. And I really, really like that. I really do. Thank you, David.
Yeah, that's a really good quote. I forget who said that, but yeah, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. I think that comes from World War II. You know, the Nazis. Clay says, "Good thing," and I only get it some, but when I do, I'm getting better at seeing often or most of the time because it's the other person and their stuff, not about me. So I guess trying to read what Clay's saying once again, that Clay's saying when people are attacking him. It's about the other person's issues, and Claire, you're saying that that you see that they're acting out in a way because they have their own hurts and their own pains, and you're able to see that. I think that's really helpful if you can do that and try to see the other person as a hurt individual and try to understand why. It's good. Next week, I'd like to go lesson 2 over next week, which kind of what you were talking about, Val. It's about a definite chief aim. So there's a whole lesson on creating this goal. So I would maybe recommend, let's wait until we read this chapter and talk about it, and then let's all do this. We can all create our definite chief aim.
Mm-hmm.
People out there, I do have a link to the book in the description off of Amazon. There's also a free PDF I found out. It's on the Facebook page. I've created a Facebook page for this online book club. So
Okay.
if you go, it's in the description. If you link to that Facebook page, one of the comments or the posts on that Facebook page, I linked the free PDF. So anybody, I wish I'd have found this before I bought it, but I'm a nerd. I like the actual book, but you can print it off too. But you can get the PDF for free, and you can read along with us, and you can join in. You can even come on if anyone else wants to join us out there. We can host up to 10. So let's
I
host.
think it would be cool. I think it would be cool for other people to join. I mean, I've talked about this all week. I couldn't believe that I let this slip my mind. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for sending me a message. Like, I would not have even known because I didn't get a notification. So, like, thank you for that, for real.
Yeah, Nikki, if you'll link to that Facebook online page, join it, maybe comment or something, then I can create a message group for those in the online book club, and so we can send out reminders or whatnot.
Can you send me that? Am I already in the group?
I invited you. I think I invited you. Yeah.
Can you send me the link again? I don't know. I'm looking at my notifications and I don't see.
Yeah, it's called One Page at a Time Online Book Club or something like that. But
yeah. Okay. So
here I will.
Yeah. Okay. Is that all I have to do? Is like it, and I'm.
Yeah, I think you're on, and then you'll see a post in there that has a link to that free PDF.
Let me follow it. That's why. See first. That way I can actually see the notifications. Okay.
And I don't know if I have you on Facebook, Nikki. So if you want to maybe join on there and like it and follow it, then.
Okay, I will. I don't think we're friends on Facebook either. And see, I'm easier to get a hold of on Facebook. I don't know anything about IG. Like, I've only created an IG with my business. I never had one before. I don't know how to use it. So I'm hardly ever respond to IG. It just so happened I seen Valerie's name. That's why I did. But it's easier to get me on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So next week, lesson 2, definite chief goal. And I think this one will be more concrete. Lesson 1 was just kind of getting the idea of the mastermind and why it's important and how it works. And I think, and I haven't read ahead, but I think the next lessons will be more practical, so we can work on setting that goal, and then we can, move from there. So anybody got any final thoughts, questions?
I just wanted to say thank you, Brian. This was very, very, it helped me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, yes. I appreciate both of y'all coming on tonight, because to be honest, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do this by myself. It's gonna be horrible. And it was so much better. And that's the power of the mastermind. I guess the last comment on the mastermind is that when you have people interacting with similar mindsets or goals, that it's the mastermind, it's greater. The effect is greater than the individual parts. So thank you, Nikki, and thank you, Val, for coming on. I look forward to next week, lesson 2, so we can set those goals. So I appreciate it.
Well, you did good, Brian. You really, really did. I'm proud of you.
Me too. Thank you. I was really nervous to come on here, but I actually really enjoyed myself.
I'm glad you did, Valerie. I really am.
Yeah, it was good, and I look forward to the future one. So thanks for coming on again. Clay is doing the outro. So there's our
hear it in Clay's voice too.
Right, you've got that picture and that sound effect.
Oh man!
All right, guys. Till next Thursday. Read a book, turn some pages, be vulnerable, be open, try to find a mastermind, and until next week, y'all have a good week. Peace.
Bye. See you guys next week.
Bye.